This is Dr. Juan Santos. I want to use this video to support you when looking at how to get the most out of child therapy. So this is where you're a parent and you're watching this video as a parent and you're wanting to find the right counselor, whether it's a counselor, therapist, psychologist, that right mental health professional for your child. And me as a dad, I completely get it. I've got two little ones, and that's important to me when looking for a counselor for my kids. I want to make sure that there's certain boxes being checked. And as a mental health professional, I want to give you an inside look on certain key areas that you want to keep in mind when finding a effective counselor for your child, but also how to navigate those waters. So here's some key areas I want you to look at. Number one is making sure that when you find this individual, they have the credentials, right? They're licensed, they have the education. Now, be mindful that there may not be that perfect individual that has 100 years of experience, right? And has seen everything in the world. You may find sometimes that there's a young professional and that relates to your child because your child may be young and they could see a little bit of themselves in this person. While there could be a professional that's more of a veteran, but then your child may go, whoa, there's no relatability, right? They don't really know what's happening in my space of the world, even though this professional is a veteran, has ample credentials. So that's what's important for us as parents to weigh those options there. Supporting your child when working with a child therapist, here's an important area I want you to look at, and it's giving your child that autonomy, that independence, the space of this is your counselor, not mine. And that's tough. I know that as a parent, as a dad, that's very tough because we want to put our input in there. We want to share, hey, here's what's happening on the back end. And in the mental health field, I'll share this with you. There are therapists that work explicitly with kids, with minors. There's therapists that work with the family. So you've got a therapist working with a child and a family member. But there's a key difference there. They're not often mixed. So when you're looking for, and this is what this video is about here, when you're looking for a therapist for your child, know that this therapist, they're honed in 100% on your child. There may be some feedback they give you, but the emphasis is, if you will, is focused on your child feeling like, wow, this is my space. And as parents, we want that for our kids to be able to have this professional that's working with them that they trust, that they have good rapport with, that's getting to know them and supporting them in life. And our role as a parent is to really just ask the therapist and say, hey, how can I show up too? And that's where the therapist is going to work with you. And you're going to work with them too, sharing what the goals are. And then maybe creating some sort of plan where it could be every month or every couple of months, the therapist is following up with you on here's how your child's doing reaching their goals. But again, it's not necessarily you're going in there and bombarding the therapist in their space or bombarding your child in that space because that can have some negatives. And this is where I think as a parent, I want to share this with you. You have your child working with this counselor and it's their space and your child's sharing things in there. And then all of a sudden you jump in as a parent and you're like, what's going on in here? Right? So we're doing something that we as parents feel it's okay, but what effect does that have on your child? Maybe it has the effect that your child goes, this is no longer a safe space. So I will no longer share my thoughts and feelings to a true level of vulnerability with my therapist. I'm only going to give them 50% of me. So now the therapist's voice becomes very difficult because they're not getting that full version of your child due to the space of therapy no longer being just a singular or I guess having that autonomy for your child. The next area I want you to look at when it comes to child therapy, supporting your child with therapy, is removing the space being a space of trouble. And an example of this would be if you are at home with your child and they act up in some way and you go, I'm going to tell your therapist, I'm going to email them right now. What does that do for your child? Right now your child may go, all right, so therapist is going to be bad cop here. And then what does that do for your therapist? Because your therapist may show up to the counseling session and want to have like a fun therapeutic game activity. But the child's like, okay, mom's upset with me, you're upset with me, this is not, I don't really want to be here. So it's not that as the parent we want to stop communicating with the therapist because that wouldn't be effective either. Maybe it's that initial conversation. So if I notice that my daughter acts up in a certain way, option one, I can tell her, I can say, listen, I'm about to call your therapist right now and tell the therapist all the stuff that you're doing wrong. Option two, I can keep that to myself. And then maybe the day that we have therapy, I can say, hey, how comfortable do you feel if during your session, I step in and I share that argument that you and I had? All I'm gonna do is just share my side of what took place. Option two, I can write down a note of what took place, and then you and your therapist can have the space to work on it and just see what takes place. What I find is in working with different individuals is that it shows at a higher level of effectiveness than the prior option of telling your child you're you're about to be in trouble, and that causes that later consequence to them maybe no longer feeling like that therapy space is safe, is constructive. So those are some areas I want you to think about. You know, therapy for a child is a wonderful experience. It's where they get to go in, judgment-free zone, which is a rare thing in life. They feel comfortable, it's constructive. The last item I want to share with you is trusting the counselor. And this can be difficult because you you love your child. I love my child. I love my kids, and we sometimes as parents feel that we know what's best for them and we want what's best for them. And we have to be careful not to mix those up. So knowing that the therapist may not have kids. The therapist may have a very different life story than what the parent life story is. But they went to school, right? And they went to school and they studied, and they're doing their best and they're trying their best, and they're trying to figure out their most effective route to support your child. And I think with that, trusting their work and being curious about their work. So being able to say, hey, I'm curious on how you're gonna help my child. What plan do you have? And then maybe that therapist can work with you on a separate session to educate on what cognitive behavior therapy is, or what DBT is, or different styles of therapy, so that you as a parent are able to go, okay, this is what's gonna happen in that therapy session. That I've seen really effective, maybe compared to the opposite, where right away, one session or two sessions in, we're really upset with the therapist that things aren't going in the right direction. And that can create some sort of a rigid line there. So those are some areas I want you to keep in mind. As a father, I absolutely love my kids, and I want them to be in a safe place. I want them to work with therapists that are clinically trained, effective, and just good people all around. But it also means that if I want that for them, I have to figure out how I can show up. So I hope that you found this video helpful. Again, my name is Dr. Juan Santos, and I hope that these videos are helpful. Feel free to leave a review, a like. Let me know what you're thinking about the videos, any ones that you want me to make. I'm happy to do so as long as I feel that level of competence there. Have a beautiful day.